It is somewhat after 1 o'clock on the West Coast. HugNation time all over the world, and HugNation time in your hearts. If you're listening to this at any time in the future, welcome from the past. And thank you for allowing this vibration to enter your world, enter your heart, amplify with your energy, and become part of the cosmic stream. Let's just take a moment and recalibrate, become present. Take a deep breath. Become aware of all the sensations that your body is treating you to right now. Whatever sounds are in your world. Physical sensations, parts of your body, temperature. You feel your body balanced as you sit in your chair. If you adjust, you feel your muscles, feel the weight shift around you as gravity and your muscles get pulled and balanced. Feel your feet on the ground. Feel your lips touching your lips. Become aware of the sounds of cars, trees, birds, voices. And in this moment, as you sit here, be witness to this world as it whirls around us. The cosmic balance, the perfect harmony, just rolls along. And we are witness. How amazing. What a gift. We have front row seats to one of the most amazing shows in the universe. Thank you, universe, for all these gifts. Help us to be aware of them. Help us to see these blessings. Help us to live in gratitude. And help us to be vessels of love in the world. Amen. Welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This week, I wanted to address the topic of all religions are true. And regardless of if you believe that topic, it's actually the title of a book that was given to me by my grandfather. And later I'll tell the story of this book, but it's something that I've talked about in the past, and I realized that because I've been doing these weekly broadcasts for almost a decade, that occasionally I need to repeat things for myself and for those of us who have joined us in recent months or weeks. And so I actually had a conversation this week with someone, and we were talking about some spirituality ideas, and they made this kind of revelatory expression about faiths and the overlapping of beliefs, and as they were telling me this, I was like, oh my gosh, this is something that in my head it seems so clear to me that I almost have stopped thinking of it as something that needs to be shared or reminded. So I want to talk just basically about religion and about faith and about the differing religions in the world. I went through a path that I don't think a lot of people went on, where I was raised within a certain faith. My mom went to the United Church of Christ, UCUC, and my grandfather, was a Baptist minister. My father's side of the family was Jewish, but never practiced. But I was raised. I went to Sunday school. I was confirmed. Although right before confirmation, I told my minister, I'm like, hey, just so we're clear here, I like all this stuff. I'm here for my family. I don't really believe Jesus was the Son of God in the literal sense, And he said, cool, totally appreciate your honesty. If you want to be baptized, if you want to be confirmed, it's totally up to you. Like, there's no, nothing written in blood here. There's no, absolutes. This is merely ritual and ceremony, and if you're doing it for your family, that's fine with me. And I was like, okay, so I got confirmed. Then, got a little older, went to college, started learning more about the history of the church, the history of religion, And you don't have to dig too deep to start seeing the atrocities in the name of religion, or too deep in the cable channels before you see this horrific bastardization of religion in terms of, God wants you to send me money and I'll send you this prayer towel. I actually saw that late last night, or not last night, but one night on cable TV, a minister saying, for a certain level of donation, he would send you a prayer towel. Okay. That being said, how can I still say all religions are true? Well, let's stay with me. So I got to this point in college where I was very anti-religion, and was in the place that I still see a lot of my peers and a lot of people I know in that state of just like almost anger towards religion. In fact, if someone said they were Christian, I assumed dim, stupid or ignorant, because how could you possibly believe that stuff with all this evidence and all this history and all these stories of how the church has manipulated things, especially when you look through, I don't want to harp on any specific religions, but the hierarchy involved in a church system, with papal robes and things like that. Hierarchy is so against the concepts that Jesus spoke in his words. So while I can embrace Jesus as a teacher and the messages of Jesus, I still can't get away from the idea that, well, the Bible was written 100 plus years after, and then all these things were added over the years and interpreted. And so to take these things as the law of the land, I was so angry. And I would go to street preachers that I would see that were trying to save souls, and I would confront them, and I would ask them about unbaptized babies in hell, and and I was angry. And it wasn't until several years later that I started to open up to the fact that religion as a doctrine, dogma, and spirituality and spiritual experiences have some overlap but aren't necessarily the same thing. And if you throw out the spiritual religious part of life with the baptismal bathwater, then you can miss out on a lot. Now, for me, I slowly popped back into a more and more of awareness of spiritual ideas and spiritual experiences. I've spoken in the past about my time on the mountaintop in Turkey, and that was a profound, what I consider to be a spiritual experience. And I think many of us have had spiritual experiences in some way. You've had them through maybe a meditation retreat, maybe through physical circumstances, pushed your limit through a sweat lodge or climbing a mountain, or maybe a drug experience, maybe a profound sexual experience. There's a lot of ways that people have these kind of spiritual breaks, these kind of intense, absolute clarity moments. And sometimes people have them so profoundly that they feel total connection to the universe. They totally understand the oneness of everything, and they totally feel the love that is God. And so then when people have these experiences, often they're changed. They're profoundly changed. And so they try to write down, or they try to teach, or they try to tell people how they got there. They say, you know what, I meditated this many times a day. I didn't eat pork. I did this, I did all these things, or whatever becomes their path. So they start sharing the path that they got to having this experience. And then over the years, people, because they see this person and they recognize this person is changed, this person has a real significant connection to this divine awareness. And so they listen, they write down the words, they study the words. And over time, those words get a little shifted as they get interpreted, and they get shifted. And over time, different groups of people start to get angry about these words and how different they are than the words that they've been following. When reality is, the person who shared these stories are coming from the same experience. They both had this experience and then tried to share what it meant. It's an inexpressible idea. It's an inexpressible experience. It is beyond words. The minute you express it, you put it into symbolic form that can only hint at what it is about. This is the crux, the core of the human experience. Consciousness is trying to be in touch with the godness, with source. And so the words themselves cannot express it. They're only a guide. And then people, because all they have is guides without the true experience themselves, they cling to the guide. And the guide becomes sacred. There is a Buddhist parable, a Buddhist story that says Buddhism is a finger pointing to the moon. That Buddhism is a series of tools and ideas and theories and practices that hopefully, by following them, they're acknowledged. It's the path. It's just a path. And do not mistake the path for the direction itself. When you see people clinging to sacred books, when you see people clinging to physical things, words, objects, practices of any sort, that making them sacred, that's thou shalt not worship a golden calf. That's the finger. Don't suck on the finger. The nutrition comes, the belly is filled not by sucking the finger, but by reaching for the moon. And from that understanding, I think you can have a little bit more compassion towards people who are devout in different areas. They're well-meaning, I think that, but it's almost sad to see that people dedicating so much energy and attention to a guidebook. It's like getting a map of Disney World and worshiping and studying and inviting the kids to come around and hang out around the map. The map is not Disney World. You don't get the same experience from a ride by looking at the map. You don't get the same experience of the Grand Canyon from looking at a picture of it or a map of it. The guides and the maps can help you understand the experience. The map can help you greater appreciation for the Grand Canyon or a more deeper experience of Disney World. But the maps are not the terrain. I heard that recently. I'm not sure who said that. The map is not the terrain. Now, often what happens is the book All Religions Are True. What Gandhi says in this is that we're talking about an inexpressible experience, an inexpressible awareness. And whoever you are, whatever your life has been, whatever your culture is, whatever your teachings have been, whatever your experiences have been up until the point that you have this awareness, will completely filter and affect the way you interpret it. Alan Watts says, people have these expressions, these spiritual awarenesses all the time, and in Western culture, if you say, I'm God, well, then they lock you up. But in a Hindu culture, you say, I'm God, and they say, congratulations, you figured it out. I think it's also interesting how different cultures, different paths, different religions have different stories about how long the path should be. The Hindu, the multi-lifetime karmic traditions teach that one lifetime is really not a long enough period of time to get to the moon. Where the Christian faith, in many sects of it, believe that this lifetime is your payment for a ticket to the moon. And Zen Buddhists believe that's all bullshit. You can just transport to the moon in an instant. And so Zen Buddhism is about kind of trying to shock your brain patterning to awaken. It's not a path at all. You can't polish. What is it? The Zen master saw someone meditating and was like, what are you doing? He goes, well, I'm trying to reach enlightenment. He says, well, meditating to try to reach enlightenment is like polishing a brick to try to make a mirror. It's not a path to it. So now, if these experiences that culturally affect how you interpret it, also it makes it so that you can kind of perceive crazy things in the world without having to believe or understand them or have them resonate with you. For example, for some people, they're going to hear the Virgin Mary. That's how their brain is going to interpret this spiritual experience. It's going to be filtered through their awareness, and it's going to be the Virgin Mary. For some people, it's going to be some, totem animal. For some people, it's going to be, I don't know. There's angels. And this is just, your cultural experiences trying to filter and trying to make sense of this inexpressible. That doesn't mean that the one person's wrong or one person's wrong. They're all right. They're all right. If you had lived their life, then their beliefs would be true. And that's what Gandhi says in the book. He says, look, you can never understand someone else's perspective. You cannot understand what it's like to grow up Hindu if you grow up Christian. Never in a million years, no matter how much you study. All you can do is appreciate that they have a different perspective. And therefore, if their words, if their truth, if their path, if their finger gets them to the moon, then it's awesome, and it's true, and it's every bit as valid as what your words and truth and finger is. So with all of this truth available, I still get really frustrated with how much religious energy is spent on dogma, spent on earthbound, non-unity, non-love things. And I think in a way, HugNation is my way, it is my finger. These collection of ideas and thoughts and experiences and moments that we share together is our finger. What are we pointing to? I think what we're pointing to, what the truth is that we are all pointing to, we are all connected. There is a flow to the universe. There is a harmony to the balance of the cosmos. We are expressions of this energy. We are the blooms. Our creativity, our love, our consciousness are the flowering blooms of the cosmos. And our purpose is to appreciate, experience, find harmony, and get closer and closer in alignment with this divine flow. Things like the golden rule, do unto others, are merely more concrete examples of, I think, a deeper awareness of that we are all connected. And I think if you get into that deeper sense of we are all one, and hurting you is hurting me, it's the same thing. It's the same belief. It's just that do unto others is a little bit more concrete of a way of looking at it. And do unto others is often said is the golden rule is the one constant through all these faiths. I would say you go deeper into the belief of there is no other. There is merely your ego self personality that you mistakenly feel is separate, and then when you can shed that away and become connected, then you're part of the one. That's what I see in the moon. So, and I said I would tell the story of this book. So, this was a book that my grandfather got in his travels. He got it when he bought it in India in 1966. You can see his handwriting inside. No, you can see that. Miracle. It's a bummer. He has all these notes that I cannot read because his handwriting was terrible. And this is the one thing that I wanted to inherit. The one the one thing that I wanted of his if he ever passed on. And so I had this in my possession for a long time, and then at some point he asked to borrow it because he wanted to loan it to a friend of his. And I've since found that a lot of the essays in here are actually in other books as well, so it's not like this is a lost writings of Gandhi. It's a collection of essays that are in other places as well. But so clearly I have it now. So how did I get it? When hospice called and said, death is imminent with your grandfather, I went, my mom went. We were the only ones who were able to get there quickly, and because he went very fast. It was beautiful. And so he's breathing heavy. He's not there. He's unconscious and just breathing really heavy. It's kind of a belabored experience. And I was thinking how incredibly grateful I was that I had so little regrets, no regrets really. I had so much experience with him, so many, nothing left unsaid, so much video, what a treasured. The one thing I wish that I knew who he loaned that book to. And so we were sitting there with my grandfather about an hour, and my mom was kind of going around the room and looking through these piles of things that we needed to either throw away or organize or donate, and she found an envelope with my name on it. And she put it on his chest, and I picked it up, and it was the book. He had left it for me in his room, knowing that I would find it. And within 5 minutes of that, he gave his last breath. His last task on this earth was passing on the book. And then he transitioned. So, whatever your finger is, whatever moon you seek, whatever path you follow, if it brings you closer to truth and love and connection and oneness and gratitude, well then, hear, hear! And embrace it and spread it and resonate with it and amplify it, because there are a million infinite paths to the one truth. Thank you. Let's have a hug. Let's do it. All right. Try this.